Okay, so for this week, we're thinking about ourselves as historical figures, thinking of ourselves and thinking of our familial past as historians might think about it. So this is where I want to take what we read in Weinberg and really apply it to ourselves. And I want you to think about your life and your family life, and that there's probably this stuff, these stories that you've been told, these documents that you've been given, but just stuff that tells a history. And so, for instance, for me, so I grew up in New Jersey. So it was the 1980s. I was a young white kid in New Jersey growing up, playing sports, going to college, and all these types of things. And I always knew that somehow, some way, my parents, or at least on my dad's side, were from Poland. I knew my father grew up in Iowa because my grandparents still lived there. And about the time I graduated from college, my father gave me a copy of this United States of America, U.S. Department of Labor Naturalization Service. This is a document for the intent to become a citizen. And so it's basically the state of Iowa in Dubuque County. That's where my dad grew up. And this person, Ephraim Feldblum, you can see right there, Feldblum, up here in the top, aged 44, occupation laborer. Do declare an oath, personal description, color white, complexion dark, 5 feet 8 inches, 155 pounds, black hair, blue eyes, from Mizanzik, Poland. I don't know where that is. I've looked for it, can't find it. Was born on January 15th, 1876, so born in 1876, now resides in Dubuque, Iowa at Cedar Street. Emigrated from this place on the vessel. Here's the name of the vessel. Foreign residence was this place, Poland. Married to Mola or Nola Feldblum. It's also from Poland, who lives in the same house. Okay. It is my bona fide intention to renounce forever all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, particularly to the Republic of Poland. Arrived at the port of Galveston, so came through Texas, on or about the 23rd day of May, 1912. So this is years later, because this is 1920, is when, or maybe it's 1912. Yeah, maybe this came 1912. They came in the 23rd of May. Now it's the 6th of November. Ephraim Feldblum is looking to become, to basically renounce citizenship. And what I think is cool here at the bottom, so this is 1912, I am not an anarchist, I am not a polygamist, nor a believer in the practice of polygamy. And it is my intention in good faith to become a citizen of the United States of America and permanently reside therein, so help me God. So this is a document from my family history of one or two people coming over from Poland, and then their last name was somehow, some way shortened from Feldblum to Bloom. I'm not really sure when that happened or how that happened. But if I want to start thinking historically about myself, historically about my family, I'm going to take things like this and put them into context. I'm going to ask questions about them. Okay, so this document, so we're in Iowa, it's from the United States Department of Labor. Like, what's interesting about this? So he's 76, he's born in 1876, he's now 44, 1912. So like, why is he coming? What's happening in 1912? So I go ahead and kind of like searched around. You just kind of go do some internet research, and I just searched for Polish immigrants. And so I just did a little search for Polish immigrants to the United States, and I found this article from the Society for Polish Heritage Research Group. And it's called From Trickle to Tsunami, the Tidal Wave of Polish Immigrants, 1870-1914. So basically, it says here, between 1870 and 1914, 3.6 million Poles left Poland, pursuing better lives. The first group did it for this reason. Now it's got U.S. Census figures down here. 1870, 40,000 Poles lived in the United States. By 1900, 668,000. Reported having both parents born in Poland, and about 1.4 million persons reported having one parent from Poland. And so clearly my grandfather and grandmother, great or great-great-grandmother or grandfather or somehow, some way, is part of this movement of people from Poland to the United States. And then there's other kind of documents we could look into here. But I could ask questions like, why? Why were people moving? Where did they go? where did Polish immigrants end up? How did Dubuque, Iowa become a place? So what the historian wants to know isn't just like, oh, the specific fact. The Feldblums came in 1912 from Galveston, Texas, from Poland to Galveston, Texas, to Iowa. The historian wants to know, okay, were they part of a group? Like, was this part of a broader movement? If so, tell me more about that broader movement. Tell me more about whether these people fit in. Were they like something or unlike something? Were they like other Polish people who immigrated to the United States? Were they unlike other Polish people who ended up in Iowa? And then we want to know, like, how they end up in Iowa. So then my dad gets born in the late 40s. He's a baby boomer, and he grows up in Iowa during the 1950s. And one of the things I always found fascinating is my father always talked about being a Democrat. It's very important that he and my grandfather he called them New Deal Democrats. Okay, New Deal Democrats. The New Deal is Franklin Roosevelt, the Great Depression. And so I just want to look up here, Iowa politics, 1950s, and see if we can find out, or how about Iowa presidential voting, 1950s. So I'm going to go here to 270 to win. This is just who Iowa votes for in elections. So in 2016, 51% went with Donald Trump, 42% went with Hillary Clinton. The year before that, 52% went with Barack Obama. But if we go back here to the 50s, so 48, around when my dad was born, Harry Truman, the Democrat, wins Iowa. And then 52, Eisenhower. 56, Eisenhower, the Republican candidate. 60, Nixon wins, so that's a very close election between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, where John F. Kennedy ends up winning. 64, Lyndon Johnson, and then we're back to Nixon, won in 68, Nixon in 72, Gerald Ford in 76, so, and Jimmy Carter ended up winning that presidential election, but Gerald Ford actually won Iowa, and then we get Reagan, and now we get, Dukakis wins in 88. Okay, so my dad's long gone from Iowa at that point. But so my dad grows up in Iowa in this time period, and it looks like the state of Iowa, at least for presidential electing, is going Republican. My father is a Democrat, and so it's like, my father and grandfather are Democrats, so they don't fit in exactly. They're not with the, like, big mass of voters at the time. So my father gets a job in the East Coast, takes him to New York City, and I grow up in New Jersey. So I'm growing up in New Jersey in the 1980s, so let's just take a look at New Jersey 1980s population statistics. Let's just find out how I fit in or don't. New Jersey population trends, 1790 to 2000. Let's take a look there. So we get population, we get this whole document, major population trend, population change, population residents, 1790 to 2000. Let's take a look at some numbers we can get here. So here's New Jersey, here's the whole state, New England, population, not really liking this. I had another, New Jersey got richer in the 80s, United States Census, 1980. Let's just take a look. Okay, here we go. So New Jersey in 1980 has about 7.4 million people. Census data, New Jersey Census Bureau, 1990. So here's 1990 census population housing of New Jersey. What do we got here? Okay. Let's see what kind of documents we got here. So total, previous population counts, number of places, user notes, current urban definitions. It's giving us definitions and numbers, total housing units. Okay, population, the state, 7.7 million 1990, 7.3 million 1980, so that's when I'm living there. Here it does the counties. I lived in Union County, which is right here, which is about 500,000 people. It actually lost some people between 1980 and 1990. And then it has the number of housing units over there. Land area, population, housing units, population by urban residents, population by urban. Okay, population, housing units, area, measurement, and density. So if we go down to, check this out, we go all the way down. Somerset, so I'm in Union County. Here's Union County. I grew up in a place called New Providence with 11,000 people. So it's a county with 500,000 people, but my town has only 11,000 and looks pretty small compared to this. So Plainfield's got 46, Rahway is 25, 21, 21. Here's 36 is Linden. Okay, I'm a little larger than Kenilworth. But so, okay, so I'm a white young person growing up in New Jersey in a relatively small town. So it's got 11,000 there. It's got 4,000 housing units, area measure, then population density. We can look at race. We're going to find out census population by race in 1980. Okay, population by race and Hispanic or Latino origin, New Jersey. So let's see what we got here. The white population declined somewhat state based on image identified in 2000. Let's get to some numbers, maps and charts. Union County is right here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right here. Okay, population 1990, 79% white, 13% African American, 4% Asian other, 4% everything else. So I'm white, so I'm part of a large majority of people in the state, and in a relatively small town in a kind of large-ish county. And so these are, so the things like we would normally say like, oh, tell me about the 1980s. For me, it would have been like, oh, I loved 80s music, and I loved the Boston Celtics, and I really liked, you know, going to church and things like that. But a historian would want to look into these other like contexts. So what's Edward's life like housing-wise? What's his life like population-wise? Is it small? So I'm a white kid from a small town in suburban New Jersey. And so, let's see. Then I went to college at the University of Michigan in the 1990s. So let's just take a look. University of Michigan, 1990, see what we can find out. Okay. I remember when I was there, the president's name was Bollinger, Lee Bollinger. And so Lee Bollinger, I remember him mostly because when we won a football game against Ohio State, we all went and ran to the president's house and chanted and chanted. And then, wait, here's this thing, Gratz versus Bollinger, like Supreme Court case. Wait, why is he listed as a Supreme Court case? So let's check Gratz v. Bollinger. What is this? So Gratz v. Bollinger. So it is a case, went to the Supreme Court, argued in 2003. So that's after I was there. I was there from 96 to 99. But what's the history of the case? Let's see if we can find out what this case is about. Okay, so petitioners Gratz and Hammack, both of whom are Michigan residents and are Caucasian, applied for admission to the University of Michigan's College of Literature, Science, and Arts in 1995, 1997. Well, I started there in 1996, so I'm there. So there's these two people suing the University of Michigan. And what's the issue at hand? Gratz to be well qualified, Hamburger to be qualified range. Both were denied early admission, were ultimately denied admission. So here's two students who applied to the same college I did, one to the college, one to the law school, and they're white, and they have their statistics, their stuff fits in like that they would be able to make it, but they get denied. And the reason they get denied is because race is considered a factor in how the university decides who is allowed admission. Well, when I was at college, when I was there, I remember one of the first things that happened. I was in a class and a bunch of students got up and walked out. This is the fall of 1996, and they walked out to support the university's policy on affirmative action, issues of including race somehow, some way as a dynamic. So here I am, this white kid from suburban small town in New Jersey where 80% of people were white, looking around at people walking out of class, having a walkout in order to support this thing that's eventually going to go to the Supreme Court that there's happening right now. And I walked out of class. I remember I thought it was exciting. I had no idea what was going on. But so if we were just put my life and my family life into historical context, some of those contexts would be Polish immigration to the United States, being a Democrat, my father and grandfather, being a Democrat in a Republican state during the 1950s, then being of the white majority in 1980s New Jersey, and then finally being at a hub of affirmative action, racial issues in the 90s, just as a college kid. So that's my family history and personal history that we might think about, like, how would a historian consider that? Now, next video, I'm going to look closer at that naturalization document and look at that anarchism, polygamy stuff and be like, the stuff that scratches your head. What I want you to think about is in your family, if you have documents or if you have stuff where it's like, wait, this is weird. Because if anything's weird, then that kind of historical thinking can really kick in.